Hey everyone, on this spooky episode we're going to be talking about ghosts. But it's not just because it's spooky season. The fact that this is going out in October is purely coincidental. As always, we're going to go over their stats, their lore, and lastly, how to put them in your game. Ghosts can be found on page 58 of the Alien Archive 2 and are listed as CR7 creatures. However, one of the neat things about them is that they don't have a static challenge rating, as most of their abilities are based around them having a wide range of power levels. Which makes sense because the ghost of Steve, who in life was an office worker and who did some cardio every few weeks, and Throckmorton, Slayer of Kumbaba, and Merchant of Fine Cedarwood and Lapis Lazuli, who are probably on different power levels in life, and in death, one of them is definitely going to be stronger. However, one thing that's a little confusing is that while all of their offensive abilities and spells have clearly defined difficulty classes, basically all of their special abilities are geared towards calculating their challenge rating for their abilities' damage, difficulty class, or sometimes based on the ghost challenge rating, their abilities can do different things. So it's up to you if you want to say that the ghost of Steve and Throckmorton both have the same bonuses to hit and difficulty class for their corrupting touch, but when using digital distortion, Steve's distortion can work as though it had interplanetary teleport, but Throckmorton can't. So if you want a fully balanced ghost, you can get the rest of your stats on the table on page 129 of the Alien Archive 1, look at the Archives of Nephis, or look on the Discord. So typically this is the part where I would just read off their stats, but because of what I just said, this could all be wildly different based on the challenge rating you want the ghost to be. But basically they'll all have a regular speed of 30, a fly speed of 60, and dark vision up to 60 feet. To the surprise of no one, they're incorporeal, which I'll put on the screen right now, but basically it means that they're immune to all mundane kinetic attacks, and any magic or energy-based attacks that aren't geared towards killing incorporeal creatures only deal half damage. And unless otherwise stated in a spell's description, any spells that don't deal damage only have a 50% chance to affect them. They can also pass through solid objects and can move silently whenever they want to. One funny thing to note is that since all incorporeal creatures deal full damage to each other, this means that you could use a hologram to fight a ghost. And they also have undead immunities, which are immunities to bleed, death effects, disease, mind-affecting effects, paralysis, poison, sleep, stunning, ability damage, ability drain, energy drain, exhaustion, fatigue, negative levels, non-lethal damage, and any effects that require a fortitude saving throw unless the effect works on objects or is harmless. Moving on to their offensive abilities, for their melee attacks they have Corrupting Touch. This is a melee attack that goes against your EAC and has no damage type, therefore bypassing any resistances or immunities you may have, as the damage takes the form of aches and pains due to parts of your body supernaturally aging.
I went to the
ghost
that makes you old.
So if they hit you, not only do any resistances or immunities you have go out the window, but you now get to experience this. Also, since this is supernatural aging, it probably goes away with time, aka resting or magical healing. But maybe your DM could say that some of the cosmetic effects stick around. So maybe if you're a younger Starfinder, most of your body is still young, but you now have some crow's feet, or maybe your hair's going a little bit gray, or, God forbid, you're starting to go bald. Also, fun fact, but there aren't really any aging mechanics, and the most I could find is that when making your character, you're technically supposed to roll for your character's max age, but honestly, nobody does that. Or if you want to stay away from the whole supernatural aging thing, you could always take the easy route and just have them deal some straightforward ability damage with their Draining Touch. As a standard action, they can make a single melee attack against your EAC. On a hit, this attack drains 1d4 points from the ability score that your DM thinks would be super funny to take away from you. And after that, the ghost heals a little bit. But once you're affected by this, you can't be affected by this attack for 24 hours. So unless your group is really bad at finding out what's keeping a ghost on the material plane and you keep fighting the ghost over and over again, or you don't have anyone who can cast Restoration, you aren't in any real danger of straight up dying. Just as a friendly reminder, if your ability scores are drained to 0, you just die. Distraction. And on top of all that, they have an ability called Distraction. Whenever a creature takes damage from this creature, it needs to make a DC 15 will save or be nauseated for 1 round. Which makes sense once you think about it, because touching a dead person is kind of icky, but being touched by a dead person is way worse. So now let's talk about their spooktacular special abilities. Blah blah blah. Corrupting Gaze. Because ghosts are just so spoopy, if you even look at a ghost, you get so scared that you take 1d4 charisma damage and 2d10 cold damage. However, you can make a fortitude saving throw to prevent the charisma damage. Cause everything is crystal clear when you've got Everclear. Wait. What's that sound? I've never been so scared in my entire life. Frightful moan. Oh. This spooky moan forces everyone within 30 feet of them to make a will saving throw or become frightened, and depending on how strong the ghost is, the target can even become paralyzed or even gain the cowering condition. Keep in mind that the target needs to be able to hear this, so if they can't hear the ghost, they don't have to worry about it. So you could either mag dump to deafen yourself before the fight, or you could just patch your comm unit into your armor, and then just blast your music super loud. Now for something like this to work, it's up to DM discretion, so just be prepared for that. Digital distortion. Digital distortion allows a ghost to merge itself with a single digital transmission or recording. While merged, the ghost can't be targeted by any spells or attacks, and is unable to perform any offensive actions. But it can change the media that it's merged with in order to frighten whoever's watching it.
There's someone watching me. I can tell.
However, if the ghost is CR10 or higher, it can use interplanetary teleport to teleport to the viewer. Which means that if you tune into the wrong frequency or download the wrong file, instead of getting a virus, you may get a ghost. But if you're able to destroy whatever's holding the message or stored media, then the effects of digital distortion ends. So as long as you never insert and turn on that bend around cartridge, or open that sonic.exe file, you should be okay. However, the book doesn't really cover what happens if the media the ghost is on is destroyed. Rules as written, it sounds like if you destroy the media the ghost is on, you now have to fight the ghost, because as the book says, destroying the distorted message forces the ghost to end its digital distortion, and the ghost is unable to use its digital distortion special attack for 24 hours. So this is one of the few times where you may want to hold off on the indiscriminate smashing. Digital domination. Basically, it allows the ghost to remotely hack into a computer and allow it to manipulate any information on it, and run programs as long as the files aren't secured and they don't need root access. Basically, it allows them to do that thing in horror movies where the TV will just turn on, or something spooky like "Get Out" is written on a wall, but for computers. Malevolence. By spending a resolve point, they can use their standard action to make a melee attack against the creature. And if they succeed, they're able to merge their body with another creature and control them as if they use the Dominate Person spell on them. But unlike the Dominate Person spell, they don't need to share a language. This also protects the ghost from damage until they are either forced out by some sort of magic or the creature they're possessing gets knocked out or killed. So if the party's operative who has just been playing my character gets possessed, it's basically a guilt-free excuse to beat their ass. Static aura. Ghosts have an aura that causes all attended items to have to make a saving throw or gain the broken condition, and automatically breaks any unattended items. And this aura is 5 feet and gains another 5 feet for every 3 challenger rating levels the ghost is. But real talk. This ability is tedious as fuck because it'll make your players roll a saving throw for each piece of technological equipment that they have on them. So unless you're stalling for time because your players got way farther into the dungeon than you planned on them getting and you don't want to admit that you haven't finished the whole dungeon, I just skip this ability. Tech Haunt. As a standard action, they can spend a resolve point to possess some machinery. Basically, it's like if Digital Domination and Malevolence had a baby. So instead of possessing the "I'm just playing my character" operative, it can possess something like a vending machine that will now maliciously dispense soda so when you open it, it explodes everywhere and you're all sticky. Or maybe in life the ghost was
forklift certified
and possesses a forklift. It may try to recreate the live leak accident that turned it into a ghost, but with your players instead. Or maybe it could possess a suit of unattended power armor. Telekinesis. The ghost can spend a resolve point to cast a telekinesis spell. And last, but certainly not least, we have Rejuvenation. So while you may be able to kill a ghost with magic or some sort of energy weapon, or any weapon with the ghost killer weapon fusion, thanks to Rejuvenation they'll come back in 2d4 days, and the only way to permanently dematerialize them is to figure out what's keeping them here and deal with it. And it's recommended that the DM decide what needs to happen for the ghost to move on when initially creating the ghost. Unless you just want to be a dick and watch your players desperately try random shit until you decide, yeah, they figured it out. I'll go into examples of what conditions need to be met in order to put the ghost to rest in the how you could put a
insert monster here
in your game section, but really quick, I just want to briefly go into their lore. In Starfinder, most of the time when people die, their soul leaves their body and they go off to have Phasma decide wherever they need to go. However, sometimes due to powerful emotions, their soul just doesn't want to depart the material plane. Typically, this is due to a powerful negative emotion like being super upset that your murderer got away, or maybe you never got to tell your boss off, or maybe you're just super worried about how your loved ones will fare after you pass. And due to them being born out of such negative emotions, they typically become twisted and insane versions of who they were in life. However, the book does say that ghosts can also be born out of positive emotions, so it's possible that you could run into some manner of friendly ghost. So now that we're officially talking about what you could do to put ghosts in your game, here are a few examples of what needs to happen to get rid of a ghost's rejuvenation ability. You could go with the tried and true unfinished business routine. Maybe the ghost is of someone who was murdered and the murderer was able to get away with it. So maybe you need to find some old buried evidence that was missed in the initial investigation and can now be used to convict them. Or if the planet has a double jeopardy law, your party's icon could make a cold case murder podcast and use that to sway public opinion, so at the very least, if the family's victim decides to get some street justice, the family will probably luck out and the detective assigned to the case might accidentally contaminate all the evidence they found at the crime scene, or they'll just purposely do a shitty job, and will likely lead to the case of who shot old man Gortusk 37 times, remaining unsolved. Or if the detective really liked the podcast, it could be chalked to suicide or natural causes.
Is that what I think it is?
Yep, it's a spinal cord. No, all in all, I'd say this was death by natural causes.
Natural causes?
You can't live without a spinal cord, son. Nothing unnatural about that.
Kind of like what happened to Kevin McElroy. Maybe the ghost is of someone who died in their unfinished businesses that they never got to tell their boss how they really felt, and now you have to get in a fist fight with the general manager of the local Waffle House. Or maybe you want to put a tragic kind of La Llorona ghost in your game. And maybe to get the ghost to move on, you have to convince the ghost that her kids need her to move on because she did the afterlife equivalent of when your mom left you at the checkout counter to go get something from the other end of the store and now you are freaking out because you're 8 and how the hell are you going to pay for all these groceries? Or if you have a morally bankrupt / bored biohacker, maybe you could find her kid's bones and then clone those bones and then age them up and then teach the kid how to say,
"Mommy, it's okay. I'm here. It's all fine. I forgive you."
Or maybe they're being kept on the material plane because of a physical object.
Return the slab.
For example, maybe something of great personal importance was stolen from their coffin. Or maybe something wasn't passed down to its rightful owner. So now the only way to stop them from coming back every few days is to put the object back in their coffin, or make sure that the correct relative gets the keys to Uncle Durblast's ship. Or maybe it's something the person valued so much that they can't bear the thought of being separated from it in the afterlife, so the only way to help them get over it is to smash it. And maybe the complication is that the item is an old Nokia and they have to find some specialized equipment to do the deed. Also, for finding out what needs to happen to have these ghosts move on, I would sprinkle in clues as to what these ghosts would need to finally rest evenly throughout the haunt. And I would have them be broad enough that if your players fail 1 or 2 investigation checks, they could still figure it out with some trial and error, and have any investigation checks take a while so you can have a chance to fight them more than once. That way the smart investigator type players and the I'm just here for combat players can both be happy. And finally, one really cool way to use rejuvenation is to not have a way to put them to rest, and basically use these ghosts as a way to make sure that your party doesn't hang around a place for too long, and has to constantly be on their toes. Or as a way to be able to continually throw bad guys at your party without being accused of just spawning bad guys. Also, if a player tries to accuse you of just respawning ghosts because they too are subscribed to the world famous 20-sided knight, and therefore also knows how rejuvenation is supposed to work, just hit him, and then tell him that that's player versus character knowledge. Because in Starfinder, there are multiple civilization-ending threats between things like Technios or living apocalypses, or the fact that lower-level tier starships have nuclear weapons. So it's not crazy to think that an opposing army or a group of organized pirates could basically delete all life from a settlement, if not a whole planet. Or hell, if they died pre-gap, there may not even be any reliable clues left. For example, let's say that the party is contracted to guard a team of dwarven archaeologists as their security detail for 2 weeks. And while they study and retrieve all the dwarven artifacts in an abandoned fort, you have to take care of any encroaching wildlife and the ghosts that now haunt the halls because nobody engraved a memorial slab for them. And because now nobody will know that they love tin or palm helmet wine, they're going to take it out on you. So now your party always has to be on alert because nobody knows how to put these ghosts permanently to rest. So now you take them down as soon as they show up, but never know exactly when you'll have to fight them again. Or, if you want to be lazy, you could just set up a bunch of hologram emitters because, like I stated earlier, incorporeal creatures can attack each other like normal, so it is possible that you could sit back while the ghost of Moldath the Expedition Leader and Hatsune Miku duke it out. However, besides straight up ghost busting, there are a few other ways that you could put them in your game. For example, you could add them to your game as a trap. So let's say that your party is trying to steal from a necrovite. One thing that the Necrovite could do is have a ghost that used its digital distortion on a piece of physical media among its possessions. And while they know that they can never watch this valuable pre-GAP movie, a thief may not. Another way you could use a ghost is as a way to solve a mystery. For example, let's say that last session your group found a prototype MacGuffinizer 8000 that could do all sorts of cool stuff. However, there's a security system on it that would turn it into a paperweight if used the wrong way. However, after some digging, you find that the inventor of the MacGuffinizer died some time ago, but the house is still on the market after 10 years. When you go to see if maybe he left a password on a sticky note in a drawer, you find his ghost, who is still sane enough to make a deal. That if you go down into the sewers and find his wedding ring that fell into the sink right before he died, he'll tell you how to use the MacGuffinizer before he passes on. Well everyone, we're getting close to the end here, and before I talk about my final thoughts, and if you've gotten this far, it's safe to say that you're enjoying yourself, and if you could, please like and comment. But more importantly, share this video with a few friends. I'd really appreciate it. Also, just to mess with any newcomers and to let me know that you got here, if you could please comment your thoughts on who has more Riz between Perfect Cell or Xavier from Xavier Renegade Angel, I'd appreciate it. So, final thoughts on ghosts. Ad lib, segue to final thoughts. God damn it. So I really like how versatile ghosts can be, because when you think about it, we're all gonna die. Whether you're a cool alien made out of energy, the leader of an eldritch cult, or just some guy, so ghosts could show up anywhere or be anything. And realistically, there are very few situations where it would be out of the question to have a ghost show up, because when you think about it, there's very few places where people live that someone hasn't died. Hell, you could probably put one of those friendly ghosts in a temple of Iomedae and they'd be cool with it because he knows the scriptures front to back and he's pretty insightful and a really good listener. Also, it's one of the few monsters that your players may have actually had to deal with, and that's always pretty nifty. Okay, so spooky story time. Dim the lights and gather around as I tell you about the time that I had to fight a ghost. Well, okay, more like intimidate a ghost, but that doesn't sound as good. So during COVID, I was the only person in my office who wasn't able to get work from home working. And because of this, after a while, I was literally the only person in the office building. And after a while, I started noticing some weird sounds, kind of like the sounds of like footprints on carpet when someone's walking. But again, I was the only person there, day in, day out. And one day while coming back from my lunch break, I saw a pen roll off my desk. And again, nobody was there. So I ran around my office just to make sure that nobody was there at all. And after I confirmed that nobody else was there, I proceeded to blast the song Ram Ranch from my phone as loud as I could, T-posed, and then ran around the office saying, "The 10 Commandments don't apply to you. You better hope I don't find you." And after that, no problems, no issues, nothing. We had an understanding. Well, that's it everyone. Now go out there, eat a shit ton of candy, dress up as something, and try not to end up in the back of a squad car. I'm not gonna fucking pay your bail. Not again. Not in this economy. Hey you rascal, thank you for watching the video. Click here to subscribe. Click here to see one of our newer videos. And click here to see something random. Okay, I made the video. Now will you please stop walking around at night and waking my kid up?